It was my own story. On Christmas Day, 2022, I attempted suicide, but thank God for that small glimmer of hope that things were going to get better. And the call I made to 988, which is the Suicide and Crisis Hotline here in the United States, I'm alive today. And so my two healers were sharing my journey and also laughing.
Welcome to the Iferia TechCast, where we'll bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today we are joined by Gretchen Schoser, co-host of an award-winning mental health podcast and a dedicated advocate for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. A suicide attempt survivor, Gretchen combines a rich tech background with personal experience to inspire and empower. At 61, she created a company that champions resilience and growth. In this episode, we'll explore the intersection of technology and mental wellness and how to build resilience in high pressure fields. Gretchen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ezekiel. I'm so happy to be here.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Your story is one of profound resilience. So you describe yourself as a suicide attempt survivor who has turned trials into triumphs. So I'd like to ask, what was the catalyst that moved you from surviving to becoming such a powerful advocate and podcaster?
It was my own story. On Christmas Day, 2022, I attempted suicide, but thank God for that small glimmer of hope that things were going to get better. And the call I made to 988, which is the Suicide and Crisis Hotline here in the United States, I'm alive today. And so my two healers were sharing my journey and also laughing. And what a lot of people didn't realize, or people that knew me, is I'm a true extrovert and a true empath. So I hid my depression well. Nobody knew how depressed I was. And I had been that way for like 3 months with a very sharp downward spiral. So the day after everything went down, I opened up to social media to let people know what was going on with me. And I had about 200 people reach out to me and say thank you because now they felt seen, heard, validated, and they didn't feel so alone in their own journey. Because in my own journey, I was terrified because I didn't understand what was going on in my head. I was 59 and a half at the time. And, people that are my generation, we've been taught our entire life that you don't talk about things like that, right? You shove it down until it has no place else to go. Like I said, my first healer was sharing my story. My second healer was laughter. And that's where my co-host, Dirty Skittles, comes in. Dirty Skittles and I had worked together for 7 years. And I use this term super loosely because I retired 4 months after this all happened. But she was also my manager at the time. But we would call each other and laugh about things you should never, ever, ever laugh about, right? But here's the cool thing about laughter. Laughter releases that cortisol, releases some serotonin, some endorphins. So no matter how crappy your day is, you can go back to that conversation and start laughing again. And then that cortisol gets taken out and you get some serotonin and you can just kind of move along with your day. So as after one of those conversations, we decided to do a podcast. I will say today that podcast helped save my life. And not only does it help save my life, but the millions of downloads that we've had over the last 3 years, we have people reaching out to us daily, thanking us because we're super vulnerable on our podcast. And we do show resilience and vulnerability, and we share the true stories. And the great thing about podcasting is that every time we share our story, we unlock somebody else's prison. We could have a guest that comes on that has gone through something super horrible, but they have tips or tricks or things that they've done that help them get from that next minute to that next day. So that was kind of the catalyst for everything else that happened since then. And like I said, this all started happening in December of 2022. Fast forward to today, In January of this year, 2025, I opened my own business. After 45 years in corporate America, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to work for anybody ever again. I want to work for myself, and I want to help organizations and employees that are suffering mentally do things better, right? Like, show up to work as your authentic self. Don't be afraid of like shame and weakness and stigma because we still have it. Even, I'm what, almost 3 years into the podcasting journey. There's still a ton of stigma out there and there's still a ton of shame, but people should not feel shameful for asking for help. I will tell you, Ezekiel, it was not easy. It was hard. I had to dig deep. I had to uncover some ghosts in my closet and figure out, what needed to stay, what could go. But I will tell you, for the first time in 20 years, this is the happiest I've ever been because I clawed up from the very depths to where I am now.
Wow, wow, that's quite an inspiring story. So I like to touch on the tech part of your background a bit. So you have a rich tech background and now work at the intersection of technology and mental health. So how does that technical problem-solving part of your brain influence how you approach mental wellness and advocacy work today?
So for me, like I said, I'm now 62 and I'm teaching myself new tools. I'm creating applications out of a platform called Base 44. And these applications can be used by not only individuals but like small businesses because my target really is businesses 1,000 employees or less because they can't afford the tools like who is it, Calm for Business or Talkspace. The software is just too expensive for them. So my goal is to create HIPAA compliant software for employees at work so that they can, do mental wellness check-ins so that managers can like check in and make sure everybody's doing okay. Creating a mental health toolkit based off of my own lived experience because, even I got burnout. And, there's a lot of managers out there that don't realize what burnout is. They don't know how to recognize those signs, maybe because they're burned out themselves. So I'm taking like my tech knowledge and I'm taking my mental health brain and I'm pushing them together. And so I've also created a course called the Joy Shift. And there's an application that goes along with that course, and it just kind of everything blends together. As mental health doesn't just affect your personal life, it affects everything, whether you're at work, with car, and technology has to catch up with that so that we can have those tools readily available to us. Make the world better.
Wow, wow, that's interesting to hear. So I'm struck by the fact that you started a new company at 61. So for the students and young professionals listening, often feel the pressure to have it all figured out. What did you know at 61 that you wished you knew at 25 about starting something new?
Okay, this is my biggest piece of advice for anybody out there. I don't care what age you are. Stop chasing the money, stop chasing the dream, and chase your joy. Chase the things that make your heart sing
Hmm.
because money doesn't buy everything. And a lot of times, money can bring you more pain than it can pleasure. So, my advice to everyone out there is find something that when you wake up every single day, you are joyful to do. Yes, we all still need insurance. We all still need to put food on our table. We all still need to, pay our bills. But find the thing that brings you joy because no matter how many days you go to work, if you're doing something that brings you joy, it doesn't feel like work. And also for the kids out there that are in their 20 to 30s, keep trying different things. be curious. I wish that I had, if somebody asked me the other day, like, what would I have told my younger self? I don't know. Be more curious. Try different things. You know what? Your minds are learning and growing, and do something with purpose, because purpose and joy kind of go hand in hand, and have fun with it. Remember to have fun. Okay. Please just remember work is work, but you can still have fun at work. So remember to smile and laugh and bring joy and bring kindness, but bring your whole self to work. Don't hide behind the shade of a mask if you're an extrovert. Like, if you're not feeling good at work, tell people. Don't put that mask on, because at the end of the day, the only person that ends up hurting is you.
Wow. So, as the co-host of an award-winning mental health podcast, you've had countless conversations. What's a common thread or surprising insights that you have discovered about human struggle and resilience through listening to so many different stories?
I think the common thread is that everybody wants to remove the stigma. Everybody wants to make it okay for people to speak their truth, right? If you're struggling mentally, there's nothing better than being able to, like, share what's going on with you. The one thing that really sticks out is vulnerability. Our guests, they wear their heart on their sleeves, and they come in and they tell their stories. And what makes our podcast a little different than most mental health podcasts is, yeah, we do add a little levity, a little laughter into our conversations, because here's what happens with laughter. It makes those really hard subjects a little easier to digest and makes them more relatable. And, Dirty Skittles and I, we are the very best of friends. So being able to do this podcast with her means everything to me. And for us, we're both a little selfish. It's like free therapy for us too. But we have had hundreds of people reach out to us and say thank you, because now they feel seen and heard and validated, and they're not so alone. And so, like, it's building a sense of community almost.
Great. So, from your perspective as an advocate, how can technologies and engineers build better systems and tools to support mental health crisis intervention?
So one of the things that like developers can start thinking about is, when you're building an application, build things in there for people that have, like, maybe on the spectrum or might have ADHD or OCD. Make those applications accessible for those types of individuals, because work is hard enough as it is, but you add in a mental component to that and it makes it even harder. Start interviewing people in the neurodivergent community. Find out what UIs or what GUIs work for them, because what may work for somebody that doesn't have any mental health issues may not work for somebody who has ADHD or is on the spectrum. Um, add that human touch to your application. Think of it as like a little human, and you're gonna raise that little human to be like, a big human someday. Humanize the work that you're doing. It's not that hard, but we need to understand, the world is kind of messy right now. Well, it's literally on fire if you think about it. People have a lot going on in their day-to-day worlds, right? Not only do they have their stuff at work every day, but they have a lot of external stuff coming in every second of every day. And so giving them an application or a tool that kind of doesn't make it feel hard to use or has too many flashy things on the screen, or, you know, easier to read, approach it from like a people first perspective, and not just like you want to get something out and to go make money.
What does integrating technology with mental health actually look like in practice in your work? So, is it about creating platforms, using data differently, or changing how we communicate?
Both. So the first thing is, like, the applications that I'm building will allow both employees and employers to work together a little bit better when it comes to mental wellness, right? Think of like a mental health toolkit for small businesses. The other side of that is you change your communication style, right? Because now it becomes a little softer. And not to sound all woo woo, because I'm not woo woo at all. But when you add that human element to that conversation, it comes off much smoother. It's not like those rigid edges of like, let's say like a conversation is a box and all you keep doing is hitting the corners or hitting the sides. A good mental wellness conversation between employer and employee is more of like a ball. It's very smooth. And that's what we're trying to do is like smooth those edges so that people don't feel triggered. Because that's one of the reasons that people don't open up about their mental health at work is because they're very triggered because of the same things I talked about: shame, weakness, and stigma. We remove those three from that conversation, then it's a very productive conversation and you can really help turn an employee around. And if you really think about it, employee mental health is just as important for making the bottom line as your key performance indicators. If your employees are not happy, they are not going to produce. And that is a proven fact that it will affect your bottom line. So putting that mental wellness bubble around it will not only help your company, but, it also shows to, like, your investors or your patrons or your customers that you take this seriously, and I think that more companies need to take mental wellness seriously.
So, based on your experience, Gretchen, what's one piece of practical advice that you would have for the engineers, the developers, the researchers listening on how to protect their mental well-being while still pursuing ambitious goals?
Okay, so one thing as, like, developers, we'll go the whole gamut, right? Let's just think of the developer stack, right? So, like, developers, product managers, product owners, QA. Put your customer shoes on, right? So your customers are gonna be, like, maybe employees of the company or maybe customers of the employee, but put those shoes on, and then think about these what these people are going through, right? Like I said earlier, the world is literally on fire. So take the time to think about, wow, if I had an end user that was looking at this screen, would it be super triggering to me? Are there too many buttons? Or is there too many places to navigate? Break it down into baby steps, but always look at it through your end user's lens. And a way to do that is, maybe bring somebody in from the neurodivergent community in while you're mapping out your application so that you can tick all the boxes, right? Because even if you miss one of those boxes, it could really mess up somebody's day. If you think of anybody with like Asperger's or on the spectrum, they everything they do has a place. So like if you move their cheese or move a button on the screen, it can affect them way differently than it could you and I. So, taking that into consideration.
I'd like to ask, what has been the most significant challenge in bridging the worlds of technology and vulnerable human-centered conversation? So, how have you overcome it?
I'm still working on that.
Okay.
Every day is trial and error on my part. But what I remind companies and managers of is that, you know, mental health and technology will always go hand in hand, no matter what. It's how
Mm.
we use those tools. It's how we present them. It's how we make it so it doesn't seem invasive. Employees can feel comfortable that their answers are anonymous because, anytime you answer a survey, everybody gets a little triggered thinking that they're gonna even though they say it's anonymous like 400,000 times, everybody's a little triggered thinking that somebody's gonna be able to see how they answered that. So, just making sure that you have the right tools in place. Just it's changing people's minds because they're all used to, like, seeing it from one side of, like, mental health is one thing, work is another. No. Everything kind of goes hand in hand. I can't
Yeah.
walk into work and just turn my brain off. I tried that
Yeah.
for 45 years and that didn't happen.
Okay. Yeah. So if you could design, quote unquote, the perfect tech tool to support mental health, what problem would it solve first, and what would its core function be?
The core function would be okay. So the problem it would solve would be being able to gauge how your employees are doing on a day to day basis, right? So think
Mm.
of like a daily mood tracker. They get to choose between from struggling to amazing. The employee like clicks on a button and it feeds up to a dashboard, and then managers could get a gauge of where their employees are sitting at each and every day. And like have like maybe like some weekly totals, monthly totals, maybe being able to break it down by department, trying to figure out kind of where they need to hone in on those skills, but making it completely anonymous, right? So like you click a button, okay, my manager Jim Bob is not going to be able to see that I have marked every single day this week that I'm struggling, right? They just know that somebody on the team is struggling. And then it's up to really the manager to figure out who might be struggling, what they can do to fix that. But giving the managers those types of tools is super helpful. And there are tools out there for enterprise companies, 5,000 employees and more. There's not so many of those tools for companies that are 1,000 employees or less. And
Okay.
so that's kind of what I'm developing.
Wonderful, wonderful. So for leaders and managers in technical fields, what's one actionable step that they can take to create a more mentally supportive workplace culture?
One of the things you can do is you can start creating a mental health toolkit for your company, because mental
Mm.
health doesn't just affect employees, it affects team leads, managers, directors, senior directors, even the CEO. But having a toolkit or a playbook that will allow your teams to collaborate and come up with a plan that can change the way that like back in the day. Like I said, remember I'm 15 at the time everything went down. I was 59 and a half, and we've been taught our entire life we don't talk about it. But for managers and HR leaders and CEOs out there, create a safe space for your employees. Sometimes we all need just a place to go check out for even like an hour. Let people know that you have an open door policy, and let them know that it's okay to show up to work as your authentic self. And just because you have mental health issues doesn't mean you're broken. You're still a productive member of society. And having employers remind their employees of that, that's huge.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Gretchen, I'd like to ask you one personal question. So, in your life, weaving together technology, advocacy, and personal transformation, what does the word innovation truly mean to you? I'd like to hear things from your own opinion.
Innovation to me is taking the tools that we currently have and new tools that are coming out and using them for good. So at 60, what am I now, 62? I'm teaching myself how to use AI, using technology for good, learning new tools that will make the world of work better, making the world of your life better. It takes somebody that has been in the very darkest place in their life to come up with these concepts of how we can make things better. Because, you know, not only did I spend 45 years in corporate America, but, I have my own lived experiences. And sometimes lived experiences are way more important than a degree. And taking that innovation, take all the messy parts of my story, all the good parts of my story, and putting it into like an application that will help people throughout the world. That's what I want to do.
Wow, that is fantastic. So, finally, for our listeners who have been inspired by your story and want to learn more about your advocacy, your podcast, or your work, Where's the best place for them to connect with you or find your resources?
Perfect. So the if you want to learn more about the podcast, you can go out to goesoninOurheads.net. And if you want to learn more about me and my company, you can go out to chosersolutions.com. On my website, I do offer a free 30-minute consult. If there's something you want to design, if you have a company that's struggling, you're trying to figure things out, come talk to me because I love to talk to people. I'm a huge people person.
Yeah, yeah, that is quite obvious, Gretchen. It's been a really wonderful conversation with you, and I am excited to have you on the show today.
I thank you so much for having me and thank you for letting me shine the spotlight on this.